What's up, everybody? My name is Matt. I just wanted to tell my story, kind of about what I've been through, my accident, and getting back into skating. Maybe hopefully help motivate somebody who's been, out of the game for 15, 20 years like myself and trying to get back into it. It's tough, frustrating, all that good stuff, but so worth it. Um, Basically, in 2005, I was involved in a workplace accident. I changed my life drastically. I'm disabled now because of it, but I started skating again, and it's been the best thing that's ever happened to me, honestly. Just to give you a little backstory. I started skating in around 1994, 95, around there, back, around the first X Games. Uh, just like anybody else, it was my life every day, hanging out at the skate park. I realize now that I'm 38 years old how little amount of life skills I have outside of skating because of it. But hey, it's worth it. Um, yeah, competed in the Cat Tour because I'm from Canada. So we had the Cat Tour, which was, sanctioned by ASA, I believe. Um, Competed regionally, did pretty well, competed nationally, all that good stuff. In year 2000, I did probably one of the stupidest things I've ever done in my life. I tried to jump from the second level of West Edmonton Mall, and like in our minds, this was like the Canadian version of the leap of faith, except this was it was just so dumb. You couldn't land it no matter what you did looking back, but we were young and dumb, and that was part of it. Anyways, I was at the mall. I wasn't even wearing my skates. I was wearing my buddy's skates. They were like a size and a half too big, his K2s. And he was originally going to do this trick, and I was like, he kind of backed out, and I was like, whatever, I'm doing it, because we were filming, and like I hadn't landed anything all day, and I was getting frustrated. So I was like, you know what, I'm just doing it. So I crawl over this railing, and this is the second level of West Edmonton Mall, which at the time was the biggest mall in the world. That's been eclipsed by, I don't know, I think it's still bigger than Mall of America, but there's a couple others that are bigger. And it's in Edmonton in Canada. But anyways, yeah, jump over this railing, get onto this like ledge that kind of spans the distance, and I'm up on top of it, and I don't even know if I realized, but the ledge was marble, and there was like dust that had formed because obviously no one's dumb enough to go out on this thing. So I was standing on it, and I was going to skate across, turn 90 degrees, and jump out. And in my head, this was going to work. If I jump out far enough, that'll be distance, and it won't be as bad of a compression when I land. Obviously, I would have drove my legs like into my armpits. It was stupid, but I skated out, and when I went to turn to do that 9-degree turn, my foot slipped out on the dust on the marble ledge, and I fell 28 feet, bouncing. Broke my pelvis, broke my wrist in 8 places, major concussion. It was brutal. So once that all healed up, I tried to skate again, and I don't know if it was the concussion or just being at the time, I think I was 18. So I was things were scaring me a little more, and especially after that, the fear set in pretty hard. So I kind of, just put skating to the side, and it had been so much of my life at the time that, I wasn't partying with my friends as much and doing all these other things. So I figured, hey, now's my time. So I ended up going to school. I became a heavy duty mechanic, and just, did that and started partying with my friends, having a good time. I worked as a heavy duty mechanic until this year actually, but in the year 2005, I was involved in a really bad workplace accident. I was working on, as a heavy duty mechanic, I was working on one of the biggest dump trucks in the world. It's a Cat 797. They use them in mining applications to move anything really, but we were using it for tar sand up in the oil sands in Fort McMurray. So anyways, we're working on it. We're changing the hoist cylinder that puts the dump body up and down. And it was like your typical safety movie where it's like night shift, the last shift of your set, the last hour of the shift. Like we're just rushing to get out of here and go home. I had to travel 5 hours to come home the next day or that morning. I just wanted to get out of there. So we're cutting corners. And we lowered the box to put a few lines on, and because I was the smallest guy, I crawled underneath between the frame and the dump body, and I was just going to get a few things done quickly, and we'd be done, we'd be out of there, and things would be good. One thing led to another. It's a long story, but the box ended up coming down on top of me and pinning me there for almost 20 minutes. My heart stopped. I stopped breathing. thought I broke my back at the time because I couldn't feel anything. It was pinching me. So yeah, all that was done. I got transported to the hospital. On the way to the hospital, I could start to feel my legs again, which was awesome. Except then the pain started, and that was terrible. But all in all, I ended up breaking my pelvis and hips in 19 places, like just completely shattered everything in my middle section. Like my bones, like even delaminated, like they were broken on every axis possible. It was gross. So yeah, that was so damaged. And then because of that, the blood couldn't circulate back out of my legs. So it started pooling in my legs. They swelled up like Fred Flintstone legs. And I remember waking up in the hospital and looking down, and both my legs from my knees to my ankles were cut open, and they were just open like someone had a zipper and just unzipped it. And they were trying to let the pressure out. So when they did this, they realized that the muscles that you use to lift your feet up, they're dead. They're going gangrene. They're not getting any oxygen. So they had to go in and cut those out. It's your tibialis anterior, I believe what they call it. So now I no longer have that. I don't know if you can see the scars on my legs, but I don't have that muscle anymore on either foot. So now I have foot drop. And foot drop is basically, yeah, you're without those, my feet just flop down. And because of that, there was also many other things. I had severe nerve damage. Both hip flexors were cut in half just from the pressure. It sliced them in half. It sliced my right quad, sliced my right hamstring. I believe that's it. Oh, a compound fracture too from the pelvis. One of the bones came out my ass. Obviously, I don't remember any of that. Doctor told me about it, but yeah, it was 6 months in the hospital, learned to walk again. Wasn't supposed to walk for the longest time because all the muscles had atrophied. They didn't get me up moving quick enough. It worked out in the end after a bunch of hard work. It was about 5 years before the pain stopped with the nerve damage and constantly feeling like someone's jamming you with like a screwdriver in your feet. Like it was awful. But you know, over time and hard work and everything, I started getting better. I got back to work. You know, I was determined to still be a mechanic because this was early in my career. So I kept doing that. Skating at this point really wasn't on my radar. So, you know, I didn't care about that at the time. I think subconsciously I did, but it wasn't in my mind there at the time. So I was just worried about getting better and still enjoy having fun with my friends and partying and doing all that kind of stuff. And you know, looking back on it now, I ended up using drinking as a crutch because I wasn't able to do sports anymore. Things that I took pride in, things that, you know, I gained my confidence from, like skating or hockey or whatever it was that I was doing. I could no longer do that anymore. So I drank, and I didn't know this. I mean, it honestly like snuck up on me. But it ended up developing into a problem where in 2014, I admitted I was an alcoholic and I needed help. And I got help. I worked the program, did all that good stuff, and I've been sober for 6 years now, and it's been the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. So that was another little hiccup along the way. But, you know, once I got that figured out and tried to figure out what I want to do with my life, skating, I still couldn't even picture doing it just because of my injury and not having that muscle. You use that muscle for balance. So, you know, you've got your calves that will counteract that muscle to keep you up straight. So if I'm on skates, like I tried going skating with my wife just on rec skates, and it just feels like you're going to fall backwards all the time. It's like the K2 feeling, but on any skate I had this. So it was like I'm falling backwards, but the problem is when I start falling backwards, I don't have that muscle to help, so I fall backwards. It's like a tree. I'm just done over. So that was out of the question. I'm done. I'm not doing that anymore. I ended up moving to this mountain town here, Vernon, BC. I got a ski hill, like a really good ski hill, like 12 minutes from my house. So I always snowboarded. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to try to make the Paralympic team, like the Canadian national team for snowboarding. So I worked at that for a couple years, made the team, got to travel the world all last year. It was incredible. Got to see some pretty amazing things. To be honest, it still wasn't skating for me. As cool as it was, and as, you know, we were on the top of our game and, you know, traveling the world, representing our country, it wasn't skating. There was still something there that was missing. And I don't know if that's because skating is an individual sport and you feel better about the progress you make because you're pushing yourself and you don't have this outside influence doing it. Whatever it is, didn't quite do it for me, but I was loving it. And then in January of this year, January just passed, I got a call from my manager saying that I had failed my Olympic drug test, which was ridiculous because I don't even drink. Like, what could I be possibly doing? And it turns out that somehow I ingested these synthetic steroids from God knows where. But I basically had to tell them, find out where they came from. And if I could find out where they came from, I could appeal it and fight it. Well, I was, I think we were in Switzerland at the time for the 2-week period that I would have been P-tested for. And there's no way I can figure out everything I ate during those 2 weeks in Switzerland, let alone everything I drank and all the supplements and all that stuff I was taking. It was next to impossible. But I did spend like $5,000 testing all the supplements that I did have at home to try to figure out if I could figure out where this was coming from. And I mean, this was my life at the time, so I needed to try to figure this out. Anyways, after $5,000 spent, I didn't find anything. And I had to retire from it. And of course, they come out with this big press release saying I failed a piss test. And it made me look terrible, basically. Don't Google Matt Hamilton snowboarding. It's terrible. Nobody cared about Paralympic snowboarding when I made the team or when we win stuff. But as soon as you fall from grace, they're all over you. But it is what it is. Life moves on. And this year, my little brother got back into skating. And I mean, like at this point, I figured skating was dead. I'd see the odd clip on Instagram or whatever, but I figured, it's over with. There's nobody doing it anymore, which was sad, but that's what I thought the reality of it was. And I was still hanging out at skate parks quite a bit because I was skateboarding as a cross trainer for snowboarding. And we came across this guy who was skating. We're like, oh, hey, like, man, we haven't seen anyone on inline skates in I don't know how long. So we talked to him for about a half an hour, and my brother decides that he's going to buy skates, and I'm kind of crushed at this point because I really want to, but I know I can't. So he goes home, buys his skates, and then finally, you know what, I'm like, I'm just going to buy some and see what happens. And I bought my first pair. I think they're the Farmers here. I've gone through 6 pairs since July. I started in July again after being off for like 20 years almost. I bought 6 pairs trying to find the right ones for me, and I think I got it figured out. Right now I'm basically running this with my braces for foot drop inside them. So what this does is this goes around my calf, and then this is all carbon fiber along the bottom, and it just keeps my foot from flopping because, like I say, I don't have that muscle. So it keeps it from flopping. It doesn't, obviously I still can't move my toes. My ankles have limited at best movement, but I'm trying my best with it, so it seems to be working. Got 2 USD heel pads glued together to try and get more forward lean out of it. That at least gets rid of that feeling like I'm going to fall backwards all the time. And basically just trying to figure it all out again, which is actually kind of fun. It's frustrating, but it's fun because the muscle memory is still there. Like, I know in my head how to do all these tricks, but when you don't physically have that muscle or the ability anymore from your legs, it's kind of tough. So it's, basically relearning everything again because, the foot drop is one thing. More in something that we find, in skating, your hip movement, knee movement, all that is so important. I find that's the biggest issue now because this hip definitely, it needed to be replaced a year ago, and I'm still running without a replacement because if you get it replaced, then there's a good chance you could separate it again. So I'm going till the bitter end, hoping that I can make this last as much as possible. But because of that, it's tough because I don't have a lot of range. So, I'll watch myself in a video, I'll, just say you're klein grinding coping, and I look at it and I'm like standing straight up tall. It looks awful and I hate it. But it'll come. But it's that's the frustration end of it. But what it's done mentally for me is unreal. And like through all the stuff that I've been through, I got to this point where I was just like, when is this going to turn around for me? When is this, it can't just all keep being bad. Mind you, a lot of these were my dumb decisions, but still, I mean, there's been a lot of bad things going on here. So I was like, when is this going to turn around? And as soon as I got back on skates again, like I just knew I found that thing that was missing for all those years. Like it was, I was always searching, I think, and now it's back, and it's, you know, like I say, it's frustrating, but it's so fun. It's such good, like physical activity, mental activity. It's everything, and I don't know, wanted to reach out if there's anyone. I've seen there's quite a few people on Facebook, you know, complaining of injuries. You know, they're 35, 40, whatever they are, complaining of injuries, saying how much it hurts, having a hard time with it. Just keep going, man. Like it is so worth it. I know at this age we're all pressed for time and everything, but you know, if we all get back to the way we used to think about it, I mean, obviously it's not totally possible to get to that level, but I mean, it's honestly hard to put into words, but I just hope it can continue to grow, and a lot of us that got out of it for a while can come back and realize what we were missing the entire time. Also, I even saw on Facebook, someone was getting into it with a prosthetic. Sorry I didn't get your name, but if you do see this, please reach out to me. I learned a lot through the snowboarding about, you know, how to deal with prosthetics and action sports, and maybe I could help you. I don't know, that would be great. Or anybody else that, you know, feels like reaching out for some help. That's what this is for, and I'd love to help you any way I can. I think that's what we all need to stick together through all this. So yeah, I'm here if anyone needs to reach out, and thanks for the support.